Do you ever find yourself bitter that no one noticed that thing you did and you gave everything and you still walked away feeling empty?
Yeah, like you did the right thing, but it didn't feel right. Simply you were planting fruit, but deep down, you knew you were starving.
Well, today's episode, it's not about the people who didn't say thank you. It's about that you didn't say the truth, that you betrayed yourself because you didn't know yourself.
And now you're carrying the resentment, not just towards others, but towards yourself, because somewhere along the way, you started living outside of alignment.
And this episode is about how we get back to congruence, back to clarity, and back to the kind of self-worth that doesn't need all that applause to feel valuable.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about when the fruit just isn't enough.
Welcome to the Nature of Everything podcast with Bo and Clint, where we deep dive into the world of personal development through coin. Confirm it, own it, be intentional, and change the nature of everything.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Nature of Everything. I'm Bo.
And I'm Clint, and we're really glad you're here. Whether this is your first episode or you've been riding with us for a while, thank you for showing up.
Yeah, this podcast is where we explore the messy, beautiful work of personal development, and we do it through the coin framework. Confirm it, own it, be intentional, and change the nature of everything.
Yeah, and if you're curious about the deeper stuff we're building, like our new book, the daily check-in practice, or the online course that's coming soon, please go to coinyourlife.com. You'll find tools that help you to stop drifting and start living your life with intention.
And if you've been listening for a while, we're not here to give you a motivational speech. We're here to ask better questions and tell the truth and hopefully give you something useful to think about in your life.
Yeah, so let's get into it. Today we're talking about a word that most of us don't want to admit that we're carrying around, and that word is resentment.
Let's start with something simple. Imagine you plant a tree, you water it, you tend to it, and you didn't do it for applause and not for payback or a paycheck. You just did it because it was good, because it felt right, and because somebody needed the fruit from that tree or the shade, even if it wasn't you.
Yeah, and then it hits you. The tree doesn't eat its own fruit. It simply gives. The tree simply gives, period. That's what it does. It doesn't get to taste what it produces. It doesn't even get to sit under its own shade. It simply just gives.
And you know what? At first, that feels really noble, beautiful even. We think, I want to be that kind of person. But then one day, you realize you're tired and you've been giving and giving. And now there's that voice inside you and saying, what about me?
Yeah, and this is where you start that wondering, right? Does anybody see this? Does anybody see me? Does anybody even care? And Suddenly, the thing that you were willing to do so freely, it starts to feel transactional, and bitterness sets in.
Yeah, and here's the real punch to the gut. I don't think you're mad at them. I think you're mad at you.
True. I agree.
Because you didn't realize, but you were hoping that fruit from the tree that you planted would also feed you.
Yeah, and you're not lying or you're not faking it. But I think that oftentimes when we're in that spot, we don't know our own needs at the time. We don't confirm the truth of what we're really hoping for. So in that spot, I think you keep giving from some empty place. And I think that's where that resentment starts to grow.
So let's talk about why this bitterness shows up. Because most of us, we don't just decide to be resentful. It's subtle. It builds up. And I think the root of it, it's not always about what other people did. It's about what we didn't realize we were doing to ourselves.
Sure. Again, this is that self-betrayal. That acting in ways that go against your own needs and are in conflict with the standards you set for yourself. And even your own gut, like you were talking about that gut punch, even your own gut, you do it to simply be agreeable, to keep the peace. And I don't know, it's just it feels like it's whatever you're supposed to do.
And here's the kicker, you don't even always know in the moment. You're doing what you think is right and you're showing up and you're being generous. But under the surface, you're quietly abandoning yourself.
Sure. Self-infiltration, as it were. When you take someone else's expectations and basically, not even knowing that you're doing, you sort of adopt these as your own. And I think oftentimes you just stop asking yourself, like, hey, do I want this? Instead, you just sort of act out of some assumed duty or, those borrowed and false narrative, those beliefs that we should be letting go of.
Yeah. And look, that's how resentment starts. You don't realize it, but you're carrying out someone else's version of good and you're kind of neglecting your own.
Yeah. And, then you wonder why you feel so frustrated, like unseen and underappreciated. But the truth is, you aren't ever even on your own side for this.
Dang, that's heavy. I mean, when you say it, it's also kind of freeing to acknowledge it. Because I think once you can say, I didn't know myself well enough to stand up for my own needs, boy, that's really where some growth can start to happen.
Yeah, no doubt. Here's the thing, like, it still doesn't mean that you're selfish. I also don't think that it means that you've done anything all wrong. It's still part of the human condition, right? You surprise.
I hope so.
You woke up as a person today, and I do think that we have this sort of conditioned need to, like, we have to earn love or we have to perform our worth. And I think we do it to check these boxes in life.
And look, I don't think it's about blaming yourself. It's about meeting yourself. Like you were doing the best with what you knew, but maybe now you can know more and you have an opportunity to realign.
Sure. Research actually backs this up. There's some study on emotional regulation and self-awareness. And what they found was the less self-aware you are, the harder it is to manage difficult emotions like resentment, like we're talking about. Because if you don't know what's going on inside you, then you can't name it. And if you can't name it, you can't address it and you can't change it.
I love naming it.
You do.
But I mean, but that's exactly right. And when we talk about resentment, it's really like a signal. I mean, it's almost like grief. It's the pain of realizing that you've been showing up, but not for you.
Yeah. And I think realistically, that's probably what makes it sting so bad, right? Because not that they didn't appreciate you, but you didn't fully honor yourself in the first place. And sort of, I think you gave without really checking in, and you didn't ask, what do I really want out of this? Or what do I actually need out of this right now?
or do they need it?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
I think this is where a lot of us get stuck. Like we're told that giving is good and sacrifice is noble, but giving without clarity or giving from confusion, it's not generosity, it's performance. And performance without that truth is always going to lead to burnout.
That's fair. So here's that hard pause kind of moment. I say if you're feeling resentment in your life right now, then I would say ask yourself, where do I feel like I'm giving out of obligation and not from what is in alignment with my authentic self? Where am I hoping for this fruit without realizing that I never intended to eat it?
And look, even more than that, like where have I abandoned my own voice, my authentic self, my own gut?
Sure.
Like just to stay liked or useful or, quote unquote good.
Sure. But I guess what do you do? What do you even do with that realization? Like that moment you've been operating out of this performance drive instead of like for purpose and for intentionality. That resentment, it still just isn't about them. It's about losing yourself along the way.
Look, that's really where Coin comes in. I mean, I think it's what it's built for. It's not just a framework. It's a way to realign your authentic self. It's the step-by-step that we use when we feel off. We're disconnected or we're bitter.
Yeah. And it always starts with confirmation. To confirm it, you got to get honest. You got to get specific and ask yourself, what am I feeling? Where am I feeling unseen, or where am I feeling frustrated? But more importantly, I think the question that we often miss is, what did I expect?
Wow.
Where did that expectation come from as well?
Look, this is where you trace it back. Like, was I hoping for applause? Yeah, I probably was.
Yeah.
But did I need validation that I never even asked for? Maybe I overextended myself because I thought I had to. I mean, confirming those truths, that's where resentment starts to lose its power.
Absolutely. And, the ownership of that, again, not with shame, but, that strength and confidence, like owning the fact that you made the choices that you make. And even if they come from confusion, or even if you're seeking that validation, you've got to come to terms with the fact that you have to own that need for validation, whether it's given to you or not.
Ownership definitely does not mean blame. It means agency.
Right.
It means saying, like, that was me. And you know what? I can do better. I can do differently now. And I think that's where we start to reclaim a lot of power, because we're no longer waiting around for somebody else to fix it. And I think that that's what happens in resentment.
I agree, which brings to the intentionality piece. You get to choose what this alignment actually looks like for yourself. And how do you want to go forward with this? Like, without, keeping score, without the little tick marks, showing rights and wrongs. It's just, how do you want to move forward intentionally?
Yeah. And also, maybe, what do I need to receive from myself or even other people to stay whole? I think being intentional means giving from a full place, not from an empty place.
Sure. And if you have that full place by which this is born from, then, also that's where transformation happens. I think that's where you get to change the nature of your giving, as it were. You don't need the applause, and you don't need to seek that validation when you're choosing to give, because you already are starting from a spot where you know your worth.
Yeah. And when you live with that kind of alignment, I think people can feel it, because you're planting trees, but not for applause. You're planting because that's who you are, and you know that that's enough. So maybe you've realigned, you've confirmed the truth, you've owned your part, you're living with intention, and now you've changed the nature of how you move through the world. But then there's another challenge. Can you still give, knowing that you might never see the outcome that you were hoping for?
Yeah, and that's huge, because, and I don't remember who this is attributed to. It's not me, but that old adage of society grows great when old men plant trees for which shade they'll never sit under. I can't remember exactly how it's worded, but it's something along those lines that.
Yeah, you don't get to sit under your own shade tree.
Yeah.
Planted.
When's the best time to plant a tree? Was 50 years ago, and if not 50 years ago, today. But you're liable to not sit under the shade of the tree that you plant. Yeah,
we combined a lot of great things.
There's so many brilliant wisdom pieces right there.
We're just going to stitch them together.
I hope you're following along with all of our tree references. But either way, I will say, whatever the actual words for that adage, it's talking about legacy. And it's talk about integrity that goes along with what giving should actually look like in alignment with you.
Giving shouldn't be passive, and it should not be martyrdom. Don't be a martyr, Bo. It's actually deep ownership. Sit with that for a second. But you're saying, I know who I am, I know what I'm about, and I don't need anybody else to tell me that this matters.
Look, and if you're someone who's starting to live this way, I still think that there's one more thing that I think we need to really consider, and that's give yourself the win. When you show up in alignment with your authentic self, you should celebrate that. You should not let that moment pass, even if nobody else notices, even if nobody else cares. Like, if you're by yourself and you're clapping alone, like, while you're in the car, in the parking lot, like, don't be clapping while you're driving. But if you're by yourself, write it down in your journal. Like, celebrate that moment. Live that moment for you.
Yeah, and look, you are allowed to be proud of yourself. And I say to hell with what Clint said. And if you want to clap while you're driving, like, just make it quick.
Just be good with driving with your knees.
But the deal is probably nobody is going to throw you a party. You probably are going to have the self-confidence and the assuredness to celebrate your own win there. Because when you planted something beautiful from a place of truth, that is the fruit. And you didn't have to eat it to know that it was worth it.
All right, so here's the question we want to leave you with today. Like, where are you still planting, but hoping to taste the fruit? Realistically, what would it look like to confirm that truth? What does it look like when you own that gap and be intentional about your next steps? Like, change the nature of how you show up in reference to your alignment.
Yeah, and look, you don't have to burn it all down. You don't have to stop giving. You just have to stop betraying yourself.
Yeah, so hey, if this resonates with you, I still recommend journal it. Write this down, document this for yourself. Literally, write it down. Ask yourself, what am I giving right now? Am I given from a place that's in alignment? Am I given from a place that is in alignment with me? Or do I feel like I'm giving from obligation? What do I need to feel whole? Well, whether or not someone else sees me, dig into it for yourself.
If you want a place to start, you should check out that free 10-minute daily check-in that's at coinyourlife.com. It's not a diary. It's just a practice. It's a way to get real with yourself and build a life that's rooted in your truth, like one day at a time.
And hey, if you did something cool today, if something worked out, if you found a moment of honesty, even that uncomfortable honesty, and something did line up and no one said a word about it, hey, we see you, we get it, and we're proud of you. Be excited about that, celebrate that, give yourself that round of applause.
Yeah, because look, that kind of congruence, that's not just fruit. It's freedom.
Absolutely.
Look, I just appreciate everybody hanging out with us today. These conversations are not easy, and they're definitely not overnight overhauls, but they're necessary, and they're really good things to think about. I wish that I didn't need to hear them so often.
I agree. And look, if something clicked for you, dig deeper, go further, grab the book at coinyourlife.com. It's packed with tools and honest questions to help you live with clarity and put that alignment into place if you're struggling with it.
Look, and we're not here to give you answers. We're just here to walk with you while we all ask ourselves better questions.
The same questions oftentimes. You know what? Till next time, stay curious, stay congruent, and by all means, keep coining.
I dig it.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to check out coinyourlife.com.